I'm Norm Poltenson, the publisher of the Business Journal. I'd like to share with you a thought which I am calling New York State and the icebergs. I guess this thought comes to me because this is, after all, the 100th anniversary of the sinking of the Titanic. So I want you to think of New York State as the Titanic, and then I want you to think about all the icebergs out there, which are our potential economic problems. We did dodge one recently. April 1st, we had a budget, and we didn't resort to strange techniques in order to make that budget balance. So that's the governor's credit. We're still dealing with questions of real pension reform, which is a huge iceberg out there, but at least we see it. But there's another iceberg that just came to the surface, and that's called retiree health benefits. Now, it came to the surface because the Government Accounting Standards Board, affectionately known as GASB, issued their Rule 45 some time ago. And that rule says, hey guys, you're making all these promises to your employees. And by the way, when I say you're making all these promises, I'm talking about 3,200, these are government employers in the state of New York, school districts, municipalities, towns, villages, counties, public authorities. They're all employers, and they've been making promises on retiree health benefits. Now, we never accounted for those. It was simple. Whatever my expense was in any given year, that's what I showed as an expense. But the balance sheet never showed a liability. And now they're following what we had to do back in 1990 with the private sector, which is to, in fact, account for those as deferred compensation. So suddenly the public sees this iceberg, and we discover that it now has, if you combine all of these 3,200 employers together, probably $240 billion of liability. And may I add, those are unfunded liabilities, unlike pension funds where we may debate whether they're fully funded or not funded. These are not funded at all. So we're sitting there with this giant iceberg, and we're heading right for it. And the question is, what will we do about it? I would hope that the public would put pressure on Albany. I know the governor has paid attention to it. He's in fact insisted that state employees contribute more to their retirement health care fund, that they pay more of that annual premium rather. But the question of funding is still up in the air. The question of whether there will be more contributions from employees, whether the benefits will be reduced, or whether we end up following Chrysler and General Motors into bankruptcy, and that's the way we get rid of an obligation. Now, if the public doesn't start screaming about it, my guess is the bondholders will bring our attention to it. Because the bondholders are sitting there saying, wait a minute, you now have a liability I never anticipated, ergo, I expect more interest. I say this to you as the Greek government is issuing new bonds at 22% interest. Think about that for a moment, and think about the iceberg that's ahead of us and what we have to do to avoid it. I'm Norm Poltenson. Thanks for listening.